Hello, my name is Matt Mackay. This 10-minute clip will help you decide whether the DAW CPD toolkit is right for you and your firm. What is it about? Well, it is a surprisingly simple system that we've developed so that everyone in your firm can master their CPD over and above their technical competencies to progress their careers and reap the rewards they deserve. It is not about technical competencies of accountancy or about law or about medicine or veterinary medicine. It's about the professional skills that every professional needs to progress their career. It's not about compliance. If you need a resource to comply with your regulator, then absolutely fine, this isn't it. This is about developing people beyond their technical competence. It's not a substitute for your learning management system. It's not a substitute for all of those compliance things in employment law, money laundering, GDPR, those sort of things. It's not about. It's about individuals and their professionalism. Developed by my team and myself. I was a subject specialist with the Chartered Management Institute. In that role, I was working with a group of people looking at the national management standards for managers. My book, Master Your CPD in 3 minutes a day, will give you more background. But I have been a chartered marketer since it first started as chartered marketer status, and I'm also a chartered manager. So I've been very much involved in CPD and have developed this toolkit. The basis for it was the Solicitors Regulation Authority Statement of Competencies for Solicitors. We used that as a basis. We looked at what was good and we've adapted and developed it and looked at all those professional skills that people like you and those that you employ need. We revised those competencies for qualified solicitors. Now, we saw when the SRA looked at their competencies for solicitors that there is one common to every professional, and that is that they are motivating themselves as well as motivating others. And we've added this, so that's an important core competency, and you'll see on our CPD site core competency courses to meet this particular demand. So the way we put it together, a competency statement is in 4 core areas of being professional, of being technically competent, of working well with others inside and outside the firm, as well as being a good manager of oneself. And each of these areas, we've got 12 core competencies. You'd find more details, but it's about ethical behaviour, it's about thinking without bias, it's managing learning and development. It's about developing technical competence as well. It's about being an advocate for the profession, not inside court work, but being an advocate for the profession and to be able to negotiate on technical aspects. Working with other people naturally occurs with people outside the firm, like clients, as well as inside the firm with other people, as well, of course, having good communications. The 3 areas in managing self and work is to do with managing workload, project management and so forth, a core competence there. Having good commercial practice in whatever the commercial organisation that you work in, as well as being, as I say, motivation. Those are the 12 core competencies, and each of those has a whole series of separate parts which are very similar in our toolkit, will enable people to evaluate themselves across the whole gamut of competencies for every professional. Yes, every competence that's required, you can evaluate yourself, and the manager can do it as well. So how do you measure whether you're any good? You see, what we've done is to simplify it. We've rewritten the competencies to put them in the first person singular, and then give you a graduated assessment across a scale between the behaviours at work. I never do this, sometimes, often, nearly always, or always do it. And if somebody's honest with themselves, they might say, well, I do this most of the time, but not all the time. It's not about an absolute score. It's about what changes over time, because that is the development of a professional. And that's what the resource pack that we've created as a toolkit is there for. It can be used again and again and again and again to track people's progression, to track people's improvement. We also recognise that some of the competencies are knowledge based, for example about cash flow, and we have a graduated assessment for that as well. New recruits, junior level, may not be aware of what cash flow means to the organisation. somewhat aware through a training course and become familiar when qualified, of course. Not talking from an accountant's point of view, because clearly that's a separate area as far as competency, but for general, every professional should have an understanding of that, and supervisors and managers of departments, heads of department, may have that as well known. Personally, I would tick it as a specialist area. Why? Because I run training courses on commercialization of businesses and finance for non-financial managers, and I've written the courses on the DAW site. So that's all well and good. How does that look in practice? Well, what we've done is to develop needs analysis, and what that means is it's in people's DNA. So DNA is what it's about, and this is just a couple of sheets, a couple of examples of what's on the sheets. Each competency area has a sheet like this, so Peter Sample can look at these and think about his behaviours over the last few weeks, seeking feedback from others, spotting mistakes, admitting mistakes and taking appropriate corrective action. And he can think about the frequency with which he does this. Well, he's often looking at the client feedback which comes quarterly. Every time he knows that he can't do something, he trots down the corridor to talk to his boss, and so on. Well, he recognises when he's experiencing difficulties, taking action, but he doesn't always admit mistakes, because, let's be honest, who does? Keep it quiet, let's put it right, and so forth. So he gets an evaluation. Not am I worried about an absolute evaluation. What I'm worried about is what he can do next to improve as a professional. That's what the toolkit gives you, your tools to help people progress. It's not comparing Peter with Pat. I'm not worried what he scores or she scores, a comparator. What I am interested in is what Peter's like now, and Peter will be like in a few months' time, or Pat for that matter. So that makes life easy. But what about Peter's boss? How is Peter going to help? Well, the toolkit gives Peter's manager guides on how to evaluate his staff, and Peter can also evaluate using a slightly different format, which is something rather unique to our toolkit, and that is development needs analysis of another person. So this person, third person, seeks feedback, spots matters, admits mistakes, and because Peter's manager is looking at this as well, he sometimes, but he doesn't turn up to the monthly meetings. Spot matters, well, yeah, he often does that. The appropriate action, he comes to see me too much. There's other appropriate actions he could take, similarly with appropriate corrective action. So here we get a difference between the two, and we can provide a guide to Peter's manager on how to conduct those conversations. Packed full. What does it look like in practice? Well, here is that sheet, printed up on 160 GSM. Copy it as many times as you like, for as many people as you like, provided that's within your firm. It's a summary of everything that's going to be going on, and down the bottom there is actions to add to a CPD record, which I'll just come on to. 12 of those across 12 areas, and 12 for the manager as well. Now, each manager doesn't need to keep all these sheets. What a manager needs to do is to keep a summary of the score, and this is a 10-point, 10 concentric ring spider diagram. All the competencies there. He can decide what the standards are. He can measure. It may be one a week for 12 weeks for a new recruit, maybe. Perhaps it's one a month for existing staff. You are in control of when and how you do this. Nobody's chasing you. You're in control. And that single sheet may be, after a period of time, say it's a quarter for Peter, his integrity is top-notch, 100%, no default on that, but he could improve in certain areas. Learning and development, maintain his technical knowledge. He's not doing that himself. He's chasing the boss. His professional staff relations could improve, get feedback from there, and his workload could certainly improve. Don't need to remeasure everything. We can measure again exactly as you choose. Use the sheets again, circulate them at the appropriate time. Some people more frequently, some people less frequently, but the manager's in control, and you have the resource to call upon time and time again. And after a period of time, maybe Peter's developed, as we can see here. He's now managing his own learning and development. He's doing the competency for his technical aspects well. His staff relationships are improving. He's getting feedback. His workload's improving, and incidentally, his motivation. As a consequence, he feels better about things. So that's what it's about. Progression. That's what it's about. We've got a dozen everyday activities, a handout for all staff so they know what there is to do other than attend a training course. Naturally enough, we want people to attend to our core competency courses that we have on this site, but it could be other things. So the manager can guide Peter on a number of things beyond a training course. It may be that I don't like master and servant, but it means quite clearly that the boss can guide the more junior member of staff. Maybe direct Peter in reading the journals for a particular sector. Maybe the supervisor can say, read this article, see that blog. It may be that Peter now knows how to research properly, critical thinking and analysis. That's a key skill, and now he can do that himself, and he can also get the feedback from colleagues or people outside. Yes, there are a dozen ways. Well, they're covered in the toolkit. What it means is that over time all your people are rising stars, okay, and they can progress and develop to reap the rewards that they deserve. We mentioned the position of this toolkit within the firm trainees. There's a lot of work being done with all the trainees in all the professions. We don't need to duplicate that. As a qualified, that's where the toolkit sits. Are people up to an acceptable standard of the core? Senior associates can look to our master classes. Salary partners may look to have some coaching, and the very senior may look to us to get some mentoring. But there's a career progression, and we help firms do that. I've done it for law firms, I've done it for the General Dental Council, I'm doing it for vet practices. Career progression is what it's all about, and we can help and support that. So documentation, very straightforward. 2 sheets of paper. Peter or Pat need to keep just 1 piece of paper for a summary and 1 piece of paper for the plan. It's not wedded to a bit of software. It's not bolted on to your existing LMS. It's simple, it's straightforward, and when people write, they remember it. Robert Cialdini was talking about influence. It's the social proof. It's about writing. It's becoming the author of what you read, and therefore the single sheet, that's on 160 GSM. You can photocopy it as many times as you like. Pat can write it again, make a new one, not invest too much time, not too much effort, just to keep a single sheet of where she is now at the end of the month, the end of the quarter, or whatever frequency is appropriate for her. Every member of staff can do something as simple as that. The second sheet is a CPD plan. What are you planning to do? When are you going to do it? How does it relate to competencies? What are you learning? What activity was completed and what next? And again, this single sheet is within the work, the toolkit. It's there for you to give every member of staff copies, guidance for every member of staff as well. So it's there to track what's going on. So those 2 sheets of paper is what it's all about. So in summary, is this for you? Well, if you want to guide your managers on better conversations with their staff, then that guide is there. If you want to guide your staff on CPD, then that guide is there as well. 12 areas of competency that they can look at over and above the technical competencies. 12 areas that the manager can help, and we have the discussion notes there. Learning development checklists get your staff thinking beyond the training course. They don't cost you money necessarily to get those learning developments there. Career path, that is something we can help you. We illustrate some examples of what they look like. The templates, 1 sheet of paper, where am I now, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. My CPD plan, single sheet of paper, guide on that. That's all individuals have to keep. The staff competence summary, that spider diagram is there for the managers, and there are discount vouchers so you can recover the full cost of the toolkit against future training or coaching or mentoring or the master classes from us. And if you want that to drop on your doormat, then just go to the DAW CPD site and put your order in. We'll put it in the mail as quickly as we can. You may get a discount from various sources. If you do, then you can get a 10% discount, and you'll know about that. Contact us if you want more details. So thank you for that. How can you start them off? Well, get hold of our critical mistakes report, freely available. Give it to every member of your staff so they'll know the 7 mistakes to avoid with their CPD. It gets them thinking about their personal development. By all means, go onto the Amazon site and get hold of a copy of Master Your CPD in 3 minutes a day that outlines how people can do this. And indeed, if you want a free copy, come onto the DAW CPD site, and for a very modest amount we will cover the post and packing and get one straight to you. So thank you for that. I hope the toolkit is the starting process for CPD to make made simple for everyone in your firm. Don't forget, use your discount code. Thanks for listening. Hope to talk to you again fairly soon. Bye for now.